If more of you supported the show, I'd be less sick of podcasts.
The blah blah.
Sending out good vibes.
The blah blah.
Good vibes. Good vibes.
The blah blah.
Good vibes. Good vibes.
108 breaths of deep gratitude and prayers for guidance and protection. And put on a didgeridoo and shamanic drumming track. Shivers or vibrations and stuff like that.
The reason the doctors can't usually do anything or identify is that, especially Western doctors, they're not trained in any of this. It's all Band-Aid stuff. And I know that's not new information to people these days.
Okay, guys, welcome back to the Grammaric Show. We are going to be chatting with Lori Spanga a little bit later about all sorts of stuff. It's she heals me, heals my mouth. I bit my tongue because of underlying reasons, I suppose. I think it was because I sneezed, but
yeah, but you sneezed because of underlying reasons.
Allergies.
Because you're supposed to like either shut up about something or not talk for a while.
I was by myself. I could.
She didn't even know. I mean, you didn't tell her you bit your tongue. She just said there's something wrong with your jaw. And he's like, yeah, I bit my tongue in both places at the same time. Never done that before.
It's all better now, man.
See, like I said, you healed. She healed you.
What a great. That was nice for her. I mean, I didn't even pay her.
No, we got into the pets stuff too. I wanted to ask her about like that whole cat emergency we had and dealing with the vet and all that. Man, what a. So she gives us some advice on that. And what
I
an
gave you some
experience
advice
that
on that too, but
some cold-hearted, tough love advice.
I don't know about
Let the cat go, buddy. Let it go.
I don't know about cold-hearted. I'm just a realist. I actually thought my cat's staring at me right now.
Oh boy.
Sitting in the guest seat staring at me. I actually thought I squished her foot in the door the other day. I was like, time to put you down. But she walked it off, so she's okay. Actually, I think you could probably fix a broken leg pretty easy these days. It used to be a whole production back in the day. I remember my like parents' dog like got the chain wrapped around its leg and then got scared from the thunder and then it like ran while the chain was wrapped around its leg a couple of times.
Wow.
And its own momentum of like pulling the chain taut broke its leg. Then it had this pin, and I just remember thinking, even back then, I was like, "This thing just needs to be dead. Like, it's just not. It's not right."
It's yeah.
I can't remember how that dog turned out. I think its name was Lady, but it didn't look like a fun experience, and it was probably not a cheap experience. I don't know if I would, especially a cat. You know, a cat whose
Lady
leg is all buggered up.
They don't. I don't think cats break their bones very easy. I mean, you got to really
like
think.
jelly.
I mean, what?
They're like jelly. Their bones.
Wait, they always land on their feet. Like they don't. You know, you throw them up in the air, they always land on their feet.
They're very snake-like.
Yeah,
dude. The one cat, Starlight, that comes in here, she like creeps through the blinds in such a way that it's fucked up because the space in the blinds is only like. You know, maybe it's like
2 inches, 3 inches.
It's like 4 inches by like, but not even because it's blind. So it's pushed together. So there's only an inch space, but she's figured out that they'll gap out if she wedges herself in there. So I've watched her do it. She'll get like her first paw in there and then her face to start pushing it apart. And she just like slithers through this fucking gap that a cat shouldn't fucking fit through. And
yeah.
It's like,
Totally.
oh, cats are just furry snakes.
Yeah. It's funny you mention that. I've often, when I pull the hair back on the cat's face and look at them, they look like dragons to me. They do look like furry dragons to me sometimes. And the snake is sort of like a form of a dragon.
They have the mouth of a snake, which I guess is a dragon. I mean, do we have dragons? We're just going by a snake. A dragon probably looks like a lizard that we know. Actually, the book I just finished had dragons breastfeeding at the end of it. Kind of weird, but What are you going to do? Crazy turn. I mean, it's a crazy way to end a book. I got the second book. So you're back. Still not in the
I'm
studio.
back to non-mask. I mean, I went shopping today in Safeway and it was only like 10% mask. It was great. I was smiling at everybody, just seeing everybody's faces. I was like, how quickly the government says it's okay to not wear your mask anymore. So everybody just takes the mask off.
Were you not wearing a mask?
Not everybody, but.
Weren't you wearing your This Is Bullshit mask?
When?
The last time you went shopping?
Oh yeah, no, I'm not saying I wasn't part of that. I mean, no, I'm not. I mean, I kind of gave up that fight. I mean, when you go into a place and you're just scaring everybody, like it's not really the time to stand on that hill. I don't think. I mean,
it is down to 10% though.
It is down to 10%. Yeah.
What
I feel sorry for the people that are still doing it. I mean, they're just.
Were the workers still doing it?
No, they were not.
Oh, that's great. That's what I don't like is where they're in the situations where they're still making the employees do it. Because like I was out for dinner or out for lunch a couple times now. And maybe the server is choosing to do it, but all the servers are doing it. So it seems like they're not. Seems like they've been told they have to. So now we're in this weird situation where nobody in the entire establishment is wearing masks except for the staff, which is kind of weird.
Yeah, I've always said, even from the beginning, that even if they work, it might not be worth it. They haven't done the analysis that even if it works, like there might be repercussions that are way worse than, stopping the odd fucking sneeze ball from going to the wrong place. I mean, that really is like the only thing that can maybe stop a sneeze ball.
Or a snot ball.
Yeah.
A snot rocket.
So weird. It's so great. I mean, what a time we're living in. It's unbelievable.
You still have to wear masks there.
Well, I mean, there's still problems with, there's a big counter protest in Calgary. I was watching a video on that, and they're all like, what are these people protesting for? We've got the mandates are dropped. And no, they're not, because there's still federal mandates and there's still federal employees that are having issues. And there's still, my girlfriend can't see her dad. He's in the hospital, like really seriously. And he was in, I don't know if you'd call it critical or serious condition, but, there's still these issues. And Bonnie Henry's still pushing the jab. I mean, they finally let the some of the masks off in BC, but she's still push, still dividing the people. I mean, this is unbelievable. So, yeah, people still want their freedoms back.
I heard there's only like 100 people there. It's 100 door.
100 counter?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a bunch.
I don't know. I know, but it's just even weird. It's just like, oh my God, people. Come on.
I think that's mostly just people that are, honestly, you know who I think that's mostly, judging by the comments? It seems like that's mostly people who live in the area that the protest has gone by, and they're just sick and tired of it.
Yeah.
So it's not less to do with them still wanting restrictions and more
they're all
to do
wearing
with
masks, so
more to do with them just wanting, like, I'm just glad I don't live downtown anymore.
Me too.
I couldn't do it. It would drive me crazy, man. If I was just hanging out on a Sunday afternoon, all of a sudden like 8,000 people walk by fucking blowing horns and fucking carrying on, just like, oh my God, you're just trying to have a barbecue.
Dude, what if you're in Paris right now? Every Saturday, or is it Sunday, Saturday? I think it's every Saturday. The Yellow Vests have been going every weekend.
For years.
For years.
Good time to move out of downtown. I mean, you got it just in time.
I love those guys. They're just like out there all the time protesting. I love it.
It's warmer there.
Yeah, it's fairly warmer there than Vancouver. It's not warmer than Vancouver for sure. It's
it rains all the time.
Warmer than Calgary, but anyways, yeah. I mean, also, I'm glad that people are out there doing that.
Very calm people.
It's a very strange time.
Vancouver's, mostly Asian. They're very calm people. Less likely to protest, it seems. Mind you, those Hong Kong motherfuckers were going off.
Recently, or?
No, not anymore. China owns that shit now. No more going off ever again. That shit's over. So you're back to free Alberta. I mean, here, honestly, we have just stopped talking about it completely. I was not even expecting that. It's mostly to do with the Russian oil thing. That's the main reason, because now our premier is doing what our premier is supposed to be doing. He's out just trying to sell oil. which is
Well, that's
is-
I mean, that's kind
as
of
greasy as it sounds,
That's
you
not
know?
what a premier should be doing. I mean,
that's what the Alberta premier should be doing, is trying to
he should.
fucking
I mean,
get
that's
pipelines built.
that's sort of fascistic. That's neo-fascistic to say that. Even I mean, they should just be getting out of the way and letting us sell the fucking oil to our own country.
You can't build pipelines without all the government approval. So
Yeah, no, I know, but I mean that's different. That building infrastructure is different than selling.
well, that's what we're
selling
trying
oil.
to sell. That's the oil we're trying to sell. We're trying to sell 2 pipelines. That's the only way to sell the oil.
I saw that. I saw somebody.
I mean,
do a
gas is so
comparison of the-
expensive now. It's more expensive to haul the oil than you're making when you get it there. So if you're not pipelining it, what the fuck you doing? I think the pipelines will go. It's just going to take like forever. I wonder how much they had to pay Putin to just start invading Ukraine. I feel like they just had to call him up, be like, yo, bro, we got this inflation problem. It looks like we got to back down on some like fracking and pipeline stuff here. We're going to lose a lot of
Justin's
faith.
getting fucking freezing bank accounts of people that want freedom, that
we
are
need a
peaceful.
distraction.
We got to distract everybody.
Yeah, and a reason to build some pipelines we said we'd never build. It'd be much easier if you just invaded the Ukraine.
And you got your own energy. You got it taken care of. Just, get off.
You've always
the
been the
Western
bad guy.
system.
We're just gonna, you just retire after this. This is the last scene. Then you're out. Okay, I do this for you. Vlad invades the Ukraine. And here we go. I mean, Biden actually just came out and said that both of our leaders have come out now and said that the inflation is because of the Russians. And it's like, if you look at the graph, we hit like, it's like it's almost the same as what's that other graph where they're like, it's like the measles graph, except in the opposite direction, where it's like measles has come down by 99.9%. And it's like, boom, measles vaccine introduced here. And oh yeah, look, we fucking cured measles. It's like that, but the opposite fucking way. It's unbelievable. But everyone just falls for it.
Yeah, the lies are off the chain. They're off the hook. I can't even, I don't know. I mean, I just feel like just disconnecting from everything. It's hard to, it's hard to see how bad the lies are. It really
it's
is.
hard.
To
That's
me.
just,
I mean,
it's hard to be surrounded by dopes. That's what's the really hard part.
I don't even want to criticize people for it's been a program for decades of really deeply brainwashing people. Deeply. I mean, and how this was such a global turn. Like, I mean, you see all the memes. It's hilarious, right? It's like, oh, you're not allowed in this restaurant unless you support Ukraine, right? I mean, it's like the Vax Pass has turned into like, you must support Ukraine. It's like completely just 72 hours. They just shifted the whole Western world from one distraction to the next. Unbelievable. It's an amazing thing they've done. It really is.
It still seems like it's only on the internet to me. I mean, Ukraine hasn't even come up in my fucking daily life yet, other than people saying, we're going to sell some oil. I mean, that's honestly Alberta. If anything, there's like a quiet excitement about the. I mean, the price of gas sucks, but I think we're going to get like a 25-cent relief on that or something here right away. 23 cents coming off.
That's just Alberta? Or?
Yeah, that's just Alberta. Alberta's cutting whatever the province used to take. And I expect Trudeau's going to have to back off on some of that stuff. I could see gas coming down 30 cents by the time we leave for CAC. At least in Alberta. I mean, it's going to be a funny thing when Alberta is like 50 cents cheaper than BC.
Well, I think we're almost there already, dude. It's really bad in BC. 210 in BC.
I think it was $1.67 the last time I was out here. So that we could go back down to $1.20 something, which is where it was just like 6 months ago. Shit, dude. Fucking 18 months ago, it was 80 cents. 80 cents a liter. $1 less. Doubled in 18 months. Anyway, I mean, that sucks. It sucks. I'm fucking glad I'm fairly unaffected by that, but I mean, it must be just fucking crushing some people.
Yep. Just buy an electronic vehicle. That's it. I mean, that's the answer for everybody right now. Just go get the battery powered. I mean, it's going to come. It's going to come. There's a real big push to get everybody on electric stuff. So
They can't do it. They can't do it.
I know, but it takes a while. But they're pushing. They're pushing.
The grid
Believe
can't
me.
handle it.
The apartments. It doesn't matter.
There's no way the grid can handle everyone's car plugged in. Just fucking fuck. I mean, in Alberta, it's cheap enough too, but like in Ontario, I don't even know if it'd be any cheaper to run electric. I mean,
it doesn't matter.
you don't remember
they need to. It doesn't matter. They have to get everybody on there. I'm being like facetious, right? I mean,
you are facetious.
I mean, the downtown, there's some high rises in New West and Vancouver that they're trying to get every stall equipped with chargers, right? Every stall, hundreds of stalls in each apartment building.
Oh, that's just a cash grab. I mean, this is good old fashioned corruption.
But that's coming from somewhere, right? This coming from
somewhere. This is coming from the guy who makes the fucking chargers. Who's got some buddies on City Hall who's like,
no, but it's coming from us though, the taxpayers that pay the people, the government, to then funnel their grants through the people that make the charters and do all this Green New Deal stuff, right? I mean, it's
good old fashioned corruption.
Good old, yep, couched under environmentalism.
They won't get us off of fuel in Alberta for another couple generations.
So anyways, I got a synchro from one of our friends of the show, if you want to get into that. I got a couple quotes. I was going to do Operation Trojan Shield, but maybe we've talked enough about Operation Alberta Gas.
Operation Alberta Gas? It's, I can't fill my truck on the thing now is what is the main thing I notice. If my truck gets slow enough,
can you explain that? Is that because you're over the limit?
My card stops at 150, I think.
200, I thought it was. So.
No, it's 150 where I go.
$150 it stops at? So
yeah.
You can't even fill your truck now, is what you're saying.
Yeah, I got a real big tank, though.
Yeah. So my car in BC, I put over $100 in my car, which is way, way more than ever. So
I've never, it's never been under $100 since I got my truck to fill the tank. But it used to be more like, 115 to 130.
I mean, maybe we should do a show on this inflation stuff because it bugs me that it's sort of that stuff just gets like you said. I mean, obviously this conflict is getting blamed on it, but I'm not even sure that all this free money that they've been handing out creates inflation.
Yeah, that's the.
I don't think that does either, though. I think this is false. It's all just engineered inflation.
Well, no, it's not though, because
I think it is.
Because I'm just in my work, everything starts to cost more money.
Yeah, but that's engineered. It's engineered.
It's from printing money. I mean, that's the problem has been from the get go.
That's what I'm saying.
So, right now, I have to pay people 30% more. Why do I have to pay people 30% more? Because the government printed a shit ton of money and gave it to a bunch of people who now have all these programs they can get into so that they can and I mean, I'm not even saying it's a bad thing, but now I have to pay more money. So now the reaction to that is now we have to raise our rates. So just in my little subsector of a subsector of a subsector, we've just raised our rates 15%. Because we need to combat with what it's costing us to fucking pay people to hire people, which in my opinion is because we printed fucking $1 trillion and gave it out to people. And I mean, I don't even know if it's that those people are sitting at home now. They use that money and that time off to maybe relocate or to retrain or to, I don't know what they did.
Well, I mean, it might be like the States, and there's still $800 billion left to be spent to the NGOs and and all these programs, like you said. I mean, who knows what? Who knows? That's why I don't believe that it's just because it's not like a direct result of printing real money, like you would think in a free market. This isn't the same. I don't think. I think it's more engineered than that. the shortages, this stuff. It's all fuckery from who knows, the government, Wall Street, whoever's just, they're winning on this up and down both ways.
Yeah, probably.
I just don't think it's directly related. That's what the excuse is, but.
Well, I see a direct relation in just like around town. There's a direct correlation. All the restaurants now have to pay more money in order to get.
Oh no, I'm not disagreeing.
So
the prices aren't going up. I just don't agree with the reasons why. It's not because the. Oh.
Is the price going up?
Yeah, I know there's inflation. I'm not discounting that. I just don't agree that it's the reason why.
You don't think it's because we have to start paying workers more money?
Yeah, well, that's all part of inflation. I'm just saying it's not because the government. It's not what the government tells you. You don't think that has anything to do with
printing a bunch of money? Well, the government's not telling us it's from printing money. The government's telling us it's from a war in Ukraine. The government's not saying it's because we printed COVID money. I haven't heard one government person saying that inflation is because we printed $1 trillion in Canada. And I haven't heard anyone in the U.S. say inflation is because we printed $7 trillion. I haven't heard that come out of one person's mouth. So I don't see how that's the government line. What I have heard is because of fucking Putin or because of Ukraine or... those are really the only two I've heard. That's why I made the comment that it seems like that's their excuse. They need an excuse.
Yeah. That's a good point. Yeah, that's a good point. I'm thinking a little bit deeper than that. I just don't think it's also from. I don't think that you get to a saturation point for a long time because we're so behind on everything. We're so.
Don't forget that I still think we broke the world when we shut everything down for a couple months. Just because it took a fucking minute doesn't mean it, it was never going to come to a grinding halt. So now we're paying for it. I mean, that's the other end of it. Like, I've been waiting for a transmission for one of my trucks at work for fucking over 90 days now. They had one in stock, and I couldn't pull the trigger on it quick enough, and it was gone.
Yeah, I bet you that's going to, I think you're right. It's going to take a while to shake some of that stuff out. Even still, it's.
Yeah, like it was for the last year and a half, it's been precarious on whether or not we broke the supply chain. Because, there's still like factories and warehouses full of shit here that had to completely empty and, not be made in time from China shutting down. And, now that might have been engineered. But I still think that's like that takes maybe a decade.
5 years, 10 years.
To fully feel
and hopefully we're repurposing.
On some things you notice straight away, like webcams and stuff. Because everyone
hopefully repatriating a lot of that.
It doesn't seem like it. It really doesn't seem like it.
No.
I think the States is. I think Texas is like starting to get into, has a bunch of like chip companies and stuff, but I haven't seen anything new popping up in Canada. You know what they're building in Calgary right now? The number one thing is fucking Amazon warehouses. So clearly we haven't learned a lot.
Yeah.
But
that makes sense.
We got a fuel refinery here, so fuck them. We'll have gas.
What do you mean we do?
They refine. We refine. The gas you burn here is refined in Alberta.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Why aren't we selling refined gas then to people?
We are, to Albertans. That's the reason they want to make a pipeline east. So they can
I thought the main problem all the time was that they had to refine it in Texas anyways.
Negative. We make any gas you burning here was I'm assuming comes out of the refinery up by Edmonton.
Not from the sands though, not from the oil sands though, is it?
Yeah, probably. I'd imagine we're using Alberta oil. I'd have to double check on that, but Alberta sure doesn't ever talk about importing any oil. I think Alberta actually imports 68,000 barrels a year is the number. And there's like a bunch of different reasons for that. Like you're always going to import a set amount of oil because there's a bunch of different grades of oil. So like the one thing I was
That's what I was saying. I thought we couldn't do the heavy tar.
But it's not the fuel stuff. No, it's not the fuel stuff. The stuff we're importing is like medical grade betulins and stuff like that. I was kind of poking around into this a while back. I could look at it again, but like you're always going to have, because there's like all these different medical grades, and like, so we're not refining any medical grade fucking shit here, or any of this other, any, say, like airplane fuel, probably. I don't know, but I know that we are at least making gasoline in Alberta. Maybe I should just double check that that's true real quick.
I can read an email in the meantime from an update from Australia.
What kind of jingle?
Here's a tip. Spamgram, I guess, or something, if you got that. Graham at grahamerica.com. Please send me your emails, feedback, trip reports, synchros, updates from your part of the globe.
Spam Graham. How about this one instead? I can't find it now. Oh, do. I like this one better.
And now another edition of the Grimerican Goodies by the people, for the people.
Good afternoon, Graham. So much is happening across the globe right now. You Canadians inspired so many populations across the globe with your trucking convoy, to the extent that my wife and I, along with unaccountable numbers of Aussies, trekked to our nation's capital to try and get control of our country again. Don't try and overthrow the government. Don't even do it peacefully. No, we made 2 journeys to Canberra because it's just that important. Our situation here has another aspect that few were aware of. Our various governments, police forces, militaries, courts, services, and local councils all appear to be corporations formed back around the turn of the century, resulting in a corporatocracy that is not responsible to the people or upholding existing law at all, and is also operating under the Constitution of Australia, not operating under the Constitution of Australia either, hence the total disregard for existing personal rights and legal protections. Another reason I thought I'd drop you a line is recently a friend put me onto an interesting channel on the YouTubes, Tarot by Janine. She's a Calgarian too. What is going on in your fair city? It seems free thought and exceptional intellect is the drinking water instead of fluoride. She'd be a great guest on Grimerica. Anyhow, stay safe and expect some huge changes to erupt this weekend. Almost any change would be welcome after the oppression of the last 2 years. Thanks, KD. Appreciate the update from Australia. I don't want to get too deep into more politics and stuff in Canada.
Yeah, Alberta is refining its own oil into gas.
Nice.
And it looks like there's 14 refineries, 6 in Alberta, or 6 in Western Canada. There's even a couple in Ontario.
Well, what was all the
but Ontario, and those guys are
it?
refining oil that they import from Saudi Arabia, though.
What was the big hoopla about Canada not refining its own oil then before and having to go to Texas? That was a specific type or something then?
I don't know.
Huh.
Was I hooplawing this?
No, not you. No, it's just been everybody's been talking about it in the last while with all the pipeline controversies over the last few years.
So we would just pipe the crude to the U.S. and they would refine it themselves.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So I got a cool synchro here if you want to do that.
Synchronicity. It's time for another. No, I'm not going to. Yeah, all right.
I'm a rambling Graham with synchronicities all over the web. And Darren is skeptical about everyone and don't believe it yet.
This is from Chris, and he put this in our chat, our Telegram chat from our Magic on the Mountain channel. He's like, synchronicities. After getting divorced in 2008, my daughter, who was 2 at the time, and I had a terrible strain on our relationship as a result of the situation. And until recently, our relationship has been on a thread, and it's been a source of great heartache in my life. Since returning from CAC, which is Magic on the Mountain, I've been giving my now 15-year-old daughter a ride to school every morning at her request. And we've been enjoying the ride to school every morning for 15 minutes, listening to whatever music she wants to play. And she's been playing 90s jams. It's easily become my favorite 15 minutes of the day. She played Queen Bohemian Rhapsody out of genre. What? Out of genre? And I thought, because it would be out of the 90s genre, I guess. Okay. And I thought, well, I haven't heard that since Wayne's World. And a couple hours later, while being productive in my new money-making move, I heard it again. This time being played by an old friend I've decided to team up with. I asked him if he knew what synchronicities were, and he didn't, so I explained. On my way home, I grabbed my phone to choose an app in order to listen to some music or perhaps podcast. After a few moments of thought, I decided to go through some of Voidwalker 001 material, so that's Joe Roop, and I haven't heard, and the live Fringe FM feed just started playing automatically, and I heard my own voice in the truck, and it took me a minute to realize I was listening to myself talk when I called in on a show. It was an archive episode, and I just happened to catch 2 minutes of myself talking when I decided to pull into a convenience store and go out of my way to tell the clerk about the synchronicities I was experiencing. I started off by asking her, do you know what a synchronicity is? Again, she did not know, and so I had to explain. While I was explaining it, I noticed the shirt she was wearing was a Queen shirt with a red rose on it, and it added to the whole synchronicity. We are all experiencing, or no, what does he say? We are all exactly where we are supposed to be. Have a great day, everybody. There you go. You want to rate that?
6.9.
6.9.
Hopefully Chris comes to another CAC. He's a great guy.
Yeah, that was fun. Yeah. Thanks for writing in there, Chris.
Huge thanks for writing in. If you guys want to get on an event, we got some stuff coming up this year, stuff coming up next year. Contact at thecabin.com. We can check out all those events, the Randall Carlson tour, all that fantastic stuff. While you're there surfing the interwebs, maybe you could decide if you're getting any value from this podcast. This podcast, making your life better in some way. It's adding some value to your commute, to your work day, to your gym experience. Head over to grimerica.ca/support. Sign up for a monthly, make a one-time donation. Decide what it's worth to you. $1 an episode, $2 an episode, $10 an episode. grimerica.ca/support. Sign up today, monthly. One-time donation, whatever you can do, we'd appreciate it. That's the only support we get on this show, and we couldn't do without you. If you want to check out our other podcasts, we've got a whole other podcast beside this called Grimerica Outlawed. And you can head over to grimericaoutlawed.ca and check out that as well. We got a bunch of audiobooks over at adultbrain.ca if you want to go have a listen to some of those. Listen to some samples, see what you like, maybe try something out. I think if you don't have Audible yet, you could try one for free if that floats your boat. Anything else?
I got a couple quotes here if you want to do a quote.
Quotes. A couple of quotes?
Yeah, I got two.
2 quotes.
It's the profound quote of the week. Darren, can you guess it? It's the profound quote of the week. Can you guess the human who spoke it or wrote it down? Profound quote of the week.
All right, you ready? You might be able to guess this one. Giving you some hope. You develop an instant global consciousness, a people orientation, an intense dissatisfaction with the state of the world, and a compulsion to do something about it. From out there on the moon, international politics looks so petty. You want to grab a politician by the scruff of the neck and drag him a quarter of a million miles out and say, "Look at that, you son of a bitch."
Buzz Aldrin.
No.
Son of a bitch.
It says Edgar Mitchell, Apollo 14 astronaut. I got another one for you.
6 people to pick from.
Again, I don't know if these are I can't vouch for these. I have not fact-checked these quotes, especially this next one.
Do you fact-check anything?
Yeah. I do.
On Snopes?
No, of course not. On source material. An illusion it will be.
Sourcematerial.com.
An illusion it will be, so large, so vast, it will escape their perception. Those who will see it will be thought of as insane.
I don't know.
J. Michael Thomas Hayes, Rise of the New World Order, The Culling of Man.
I don't even know who that is. I hope I don't get called, though. I'm one of them Indian rare types, so I'm worth keeping around. All right, guys, but that's about all we got. We got a great chat coming up with Lori Spanga, though. We hope you enjoyed that. We hope you enjoyed our lazy ramblings. Enjoy the chat with Lori.
Lori Spanga, welcome to Grimerica. Thanks for joining us.
Well, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
We finally made it happen.
We finally made it happen.
It's probably been like 3 or 4 months we've been going back and forth trying to do this. So I'm glad, and it's funny because I do have some specific questions about an event that happened to my girlfriend and I and some pets. So, but we'll save that for later because it was happening during, like, I was about to talk to you, like, right when this is going down. I thought, how crazy is this going to be? But I know that's sort of some of your older work and all that, but we'll get into some of the newer stuff. And I want to hear about your NDEs and stuff. So maybe we start off by just a quick, like, background information and what you're up to. And maybe you can talk about your NDE.
Yeah. Well, the background information is basically, same story as a lot of people. I went to college. I went through corporate America. I spent about 20 years in corporate America, and I was pretty miserable during those 20 years. I call myself a good slave. I developed all kinds of adaptation behaviors to survive in an environment, a situation where I was just not aligned with my right purpose and mission. So I started smoking 2 packs a day, drinking 6 beers a day, sometimes more, eating nonstop, caffeine nonstop, wasn't being good to my body, wasn't taking care of my health. My thyroid was off. My hair was falling out. I was way overweight. I was, engaging in a lot of unhealthy behaviors, especially, relationship behavioral patterns that were really unhealthy. And, I was going to doctors and they were pumping me up with massive amounts of pharmaceuticals. And after this went on for like 20 years, and that was normal, that was considered normal. I'd cry myself to sleep every night that I had to go to work, and I'd hop from job to job because it all sucked. So after 20 years of that, my brother died of an unexpected drug overdose. And I started getting messages from him. That was my initial wake-up call. So I'm getting messages from, this New York accent, funny guy, and he'd say, "Hey, Lotch, you dead brother Jeff." And I had to work with that for like a year to unpack it, if I was crazy or not. But after about a year, I really realized I wasn't making it up. It was real. Like, there were just some of those things happening that were just not, like, I couldn't deny. They were just so real. So in any case, I ended up quitting those jobs and leaving that whole world behind, because his big message was like, wake up.
Did your brother know about that how bad it was for you at the time?
No, we really didn't have a good relationship while he was alive.
Yeah, and
not a really good relationship. He was a drug addict and he was an alcoholic. So I was in Al-Anon all those years. And in any case, my relationship with my brother really improved after he transitioned. But the big wake-up call was like, you're doing the same kinds of stuff. You think it's different, but it's the same. So you need to change your ways or else you're going to die too. And so that's what I did. I quit my 6-figure job in corporate America and I became a dog trainer. And right away, I started getting the same kind of messages from the dogs. And they would say, them and get messages like I just didn't even know that I could, right? This stuff just started to come online naturally the moment I started to get happy. And they would say, we're here to help the humans. Listen to us. We're going to teach you. That's where it all started. 2 years after, right within a year after my brother died, I moved to Maui. This is just the end of my whole background, really. I moved to Maui. I spent 2 years in Maui. I got into all these esoteric practices. I became a healer. Within the 2 years, all that stuff was gone, by the way. 6 figures in credit card debt, all the alcohol forever, all the drugs, all the caffeine. Like it was just gone. I lost so much weight. My thyroid got naturally healed. Like everything got healed. And I quit the smoking. Like it was just all gone within 2 years. But I was going through radical change. So I was doing all these esoteric practices. I was getting into all the healing arts. I was, meditating through the night. I was practicing with these ancient, Tibetan, masters and on how to work with energy. And that's how the near death experience happened. It's called a little death when it's not, you're not certified dead by a doctor. It's all done in a spiritual practice. And I had the most fascinating piece of the whole thing actually was that I had a first contact experience. So I was meditating through the night in Maui. And it was way after everything was closed. And I had a first contact experience. I was teletransported on ship. Those things just accelerated my journey so fast that I went through such a radical transformation within those 2 years that by the time I came back, it was a big, coming back into the world, so to speak. And anyway, that's where it all began. That's where my journey started.
The reason I asked you about your brother is because I had a similar corporate ladder experience and then fallen into addiction and came out of it. And my sister knew at the time, but I wouldn't engage her in conversation. Like I kind of avoided her a couple of times. She was about to approach me about my problems. And I kind of avoided it, but yeah, it's similar in some ways to your story. Did the first contact happen as part of the little death, or was it afterwards?
What happens a lot of times is that when a person has a near death, they pass through. Their light has to pass through dimensions of reality or frequency bandwidths that are sort of unknown to us, and so this gets a lot of attraction and attention from what we call aliens or star beings. They see your light. And there is, this is a long conversation, but because you get attention, then it's sort of like, what's going to happen with this being as they transition? What are they going to do? So that's why the first contact came afterwards.
Right. Okay, I see. It's fascinating, the NDEs. You mentioned your Tibetan masters and all, because they were so focused on that back in. I've been reading these books on ancient Egypt, and they're so focused on the mummification and the death experience, and I think that this been a reality. Like we're getting it back now, I think, but we've lost this reality in the last couple hundred years of the spiritual reality of near death experiences and maybe like you were talking about endogenous DMT being released. But I think like the Tibetans and the Egyptians way back when have just focused so much on this experience, right? Imagine before technology in these days when you'd have these NDEs and I think of them more as like certain death experiences, like people that would die and then come back to life after they've experienced the life review or whatever DMT. And that must have become a really important part of their practice, is how do we transition into that realm, not get our souls trapped somewhere? They were doing all these things to make sure you come back and you see your body, you see that your body's there so that it helps you sort of transition through to the next, like what you say, frequency bandwidth, I guess.
Well, it's true because the master that I studied with, his name is Max Christensen. He actually is documented. He had like, I think 7 near-death experiences, one of which he was actually in the morgue, like banging on the freezer in the morgue. But you're right that used to be, had, some of the ancient, like the ancient book of the dead and the Tibetan book of the dead, they have to practice how they move through the Bardos, which to me, the Bardos is, I would identify as 4th dimension, or what Catholicism, Christianity might identify as purgatory. It's this realm where you're transitioning through all these like frequency, I call them frequency fences, energetic debris. And in that energetic debris, everything exists. It's where you start realizing I am not that, but I am at one with it, but it's not where I belong. So in other words, at least when I say you, that's kind of how my experience is whenever I traverse that. It's like Grand Central Station in a way. You're moving through this stuff to get somewhere. You don't want to hang out there. And I mean, what's in there? Thoughts and beliefs and belief systems and all kinds of energetic debris, entities, and demonics can be there, and ghosts, and all kinds of sounds, and just awarenesses of beings traversing, and so you got to move through there, right? And those ancient masters, that's why they made such a practice of this, because they wanted to get to the so-called highest levels that they could align with, and they knew they had to move through that frequency or that bandwidth. That's like the Bardos getting through so that they can get past it.
And what if they knew that these NDE, like, because we've had how many guests, Darren, have we had on that had an NDE and then changed their whole life path, wrote books or channeled information or whatever, had downloads or had special powers, like special healing powers or special psychic powers. I mean, you can only say
that's what happened to me.
So and imagine them in the past, they'd be like, holy shit, this guy died, came back to life, and he's got these special powers now. He's got the clairaudience or the searing ability. I mean, you would want to be like, wow, how do I do that normally,
The thing is now what's happening because of the whole ascension journey, we all have that. We're developing it. So I just know for me personally, it was part of my soul's agenda. Like even my brother's death, that was part of what I would call a pre-scripted agenda for our souls to evolve. His soul's journey was to go through that process, and my soul's journey was to be, awakened through his transition. And then I was going to do the work that now I do. So to me, that was all kind of like pre-agreed, pre-planned by our own, soul and our own divinities. But essentially now humans are all getting the opportunity to awaken, but we have to make radical changes in the way we're living and the way what we're doing. So that's part of what we call this ascension journey that humanity is going through, which is just an evolutionary process of awakening for the whole of humanity.
So do we have to make radical changes after we awaken? Or
no, generally we have to make radical changes in order to awaken, in my opinion. That's part of what we're going through, right? We're literally realizing like we can't go on living the way we've been living. We can't go on being the way we've been being. And we're changing energetically from the inside out, in a sense, which is what's catalyzing the change in the external world that we're beginning to see. Most humans, if they don't understand what's happening right now, the world looks like a very scary place, very scary. But that's just because they don't understand that everything that they've known is collapsing because it was never really for their most benevolent best anyway. So
is there a chance that there is a reason to, and I don't know how do I word this? I don't want it to be a negative question, but if I agree it's collapsing to a certain point, but they're trying harder than ever to control everything and everybody.
That's because they know they've lost their power.
Yeah.
Most humans don't understand what's been going on Earth for basically way longer than we've existed. And it's so far out there that it's so hard to believe. But once you start waking up and, realizing what it is.
Is there a risk though that they could take away some spiritual access from us?
No, that's already been done. That's what's being revoked. See, when we talk about these etheric non-physical frequency bandwidths, what, to my knowledge, to my awareness, up until 2012, and even in the years leading after, up until 2017, it's been starting to dissipate. 2020 was the major end of it, but 2012 was too, really. We had this frequency bandwidth around the physical experience of Earth, which we could call a matrix. People call it the matrix. And everyone was trapped in that. And you didn't even really have a really real reincarnation cycle. So a person would transition, they'd get caught in either the Bardo, so the frequency bandwidth, and they basically get what's called a fake life review.
Wow.
An opportunity to visit with their karma, and then they'd be sort of cajoled into doing it again, and they'd be like memory wiped, right? So we'd come back and we'd have to redo our karma without any of the knowledge or wisdom that we gained from the previous lifetime, unless to whatever degree we were able to hold on to it. Now that's gone. Karma has been basically erased for humanity, but not if you're not free of it.
When did that happen? When did the memory wipe happen? Like,
that's been going on for
a long time,
eons, way longer than any lifetime. So in 2012, basically that was the agreement when humanity was meant to begin awakening. But what does that mean? It doesn't mean suddenly you wake up and everything's different. It means that now all of the old rules of the game, so to speak, would change. The game of life as we know it in this physical earthly world. And part of that was this frequency fence. I'm calling it this, but these frequency bandwidths would now be easier to traverse. We could no longer be entrapped within this. And so what that means is that people who transition get to have a real ascension journey with a real life review, and then they get to decide in a conscious way where they're going to come back to. Now, this is why you have a lot of kids right now reincarnating with all these superhuman abilities and memories from other lifetimes, and they just come in and they're suddenly like, at the age of 5, they have all these like incredible gifts, and because they're taking with them back into their reincarnation, their memories and their gifts without losing access to them. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. Was that gonna happen regardless in 2012, or did we make that happen because everybody believed something, or there was a large majority that believed something was supposed to happen?
No, that was going to happen regardless. The reason is that there is a divine source of infinite awareness, so infinite consciousness that created the game. It created the game of life on Earth for the purpose of the expansion of consciousness. Now, how can you expand consciousness if you're omnipresent, omni-aware, omniconscious? You have to go unconscious. And then you create yourself as fractalized aspects of self, individuations of source in human form or various humanoid forms, etc. And then you create a game here for the expansion of consciousness and for experience that would be a result of being unconscious in this game of what we call polarity, duality, good against evil, so to speak. But that game was always going to be expired in this time-space reality where we are now. So that game is up. And now the game is how quickly can you kind of awaken? How much ease and grace and benevolence can you have in your experience? Or even that, if that's not what you're choosing, then the choice is how much consciousness can you start to have about the experience that you're creating?
Like awareness?
What's that?
Awareness or consciousness?
Yeah. Well, they are two different things in a sense. But yeah, both, either or both. So, and then at the same time, how can you use that, to facilitate and be of service to others during their awakening? Because ultimately, this is like, to me, so basic. Ultimately, we're all helping one another to awaken because we are all ultimately part of this one divine source. We're all aspects of where we identify, universe, quantum intelligence, whatever. Make sense?
So, yeah. So how do we, because it's hard for people to imagine, even people like us that explore these topics on the somewhat regular basis, to even imagine exiting the matrix. How does that look like? I mean, we've had shows where we sort of challenged ourselves and others to think like, try and imagine the unlimited possibilities of exiting the matrix, or unlimited manifestation possibilities.
Yeah. Well, there's some basics to it, some very basics that are the guiding platforms of it. But when you say unlimited, that's totally true. It's unlimited. What is unlimited? We don't even know what that is.
Yeah.
What is infinite? We can't even begin to wrap our brains around that. But there are some basic general platform, like foundational facts about it. Number one, first and foremost, every being must begin to shift out of exclusively utilizing the brain and shifting into heart-centered ability to function through the heart center. The heart is a portal energetically. It's a portal to the higher dimensional realms. It's also a portal to the DNA strands beyond the first two strands that most humans are utilizing. So this portal is what starts to awaken the dormant capacities within each being. And that's a foundational fact. Now, how do you start caring? We just look at people of the world who have no care or compassion. We can look at our world leaders. One of the times, a long time ago, my divine team, in the non-physical, I was speaking at a conference and they gave me this joke to say. Like, I didn't make this up. They just said to use this in the audience, and I did. It was so good. I still use it. And the joke was, why doesn't Dick Cheney have a heart? Because he's a dick. Funny, right? But so, this is the thing. We have to be able to get into our heart center. The second most important thing, and this is one of the hardest parts for humans, really hard when we shift out, is choosing to take full responsibility for one's experience. That is really hard because our entire game of unconsciousness, this old paradigm was based in victimization, victimizer, and blame. And there's always someone to blame. Even in the conspiracy circles, the persons or people they blame is, the deep state or the politicians or the negative aliens or, the government or, Trump or whoever they want to blame. So they don't see that that's just a representation, that they're engaging people in the conspiracy circles. And I never advocate not knowing what's going on Earth. You got to know that stuff is real. That is not a hallucination. That's not like a theory, but they exist, the shadow aspects of us, our darkness, where we have not reconciled. So every time we're playing with that by blaming, we are just actually creating the game. We're giving that life force to them. So in any case, that's the hardest part for humans. We have to begin to take 100% responsibility for everything. And like, for example, you could say, like, I do channeling, so I can channel the consciousness. And I use the word channeling, but it's not the same thing. I exist on every dimension of reality. And so I have learned how to merge with consciousness at every dimension of reality. So I call it channeling, but it's really a merging. And I've recently channeled the consciousness of COVID, also the consciousness of the vaccine. And the consciousness of COVID is fascinating. What's that?
Which is smarter?
Which is smarter, COVID or the vaccine?
Yeah.
I don't know. I didn't ask. I don't know how to answer that question. It's an interesting one.
That
Just
probably
in
wasn't
different
even on her mind
perspectives.
at the time. Like,
It wasn't. It's just
smarter,
different
like-
perspectives.
Which one was better to be around?
Perspective.
Which one was better to be around? Which one would you rather spend time with?
I definitely didn't like either of them, but the
What if you
actually
had to? You
COVID
have
was
to.
more tolerable than the vaccine.
Yeah, I could see that.
The
Yeah,
vaccine was just disgusting.
If they had
And at the end, it was
accents,
so gross. And at
what
the
kind of
end of
accents
it,
would they have? Did they have
I don't
accents?
know, but people make fun of me because of my face is like friendly fun. My community, their faces are so good. But really, after the vaccine one, I had to get a clearing because like I stopped and I was talking to my own team, telepathically, and I'm like, okay, what? I don't even get this off me. Like this is so bad. And they were like, don't worry, we'll take care of it. And just in a moment, it was gone. But yeah, that one was good. But where I was going with that, let me just say, was that the consciousness of COVID was saying, look, I was created by humanity for humanity. Do you know how many people, it was saying something like, do you know how many people wanted a vacation? Do you know how many people wanted to quit their jobs? Do you know how many people wanted to stay at home? Do you know how many empaths wanted people to stop touching them and wanted space? Like it just was pointing out to the collective, like how many people were calling for something massive to change in their lives. And it took into account the consciousness of every living being on earth to create that experience. But we don't see that in ourselves as creators of that.
Well,
But we contributed to it.
yeah, some of us have pointed out that that might backfire in those ways. That I mean, it did have a lot of people reevaluate important things in life, and there's a blowback effect that might happen from these bioweapons.
Right. I don't even call that a blowback. You see, from the higher realms perspective, everything that's allowed in this reality post 2012 ultimately is allowed here because it's ultimately serving the light. There's a big difference, though, between it can serve the light ultimately to help, like right now, even the war is helping to catalyze compassion on earth in a grand scale. It's helping people to choose. No, we choose peace. We choose harmony. People are choosing it. That war won't go on past April. It'll be done pretty much by the end of April. But my point is there's a big difference between something that's ultimately serving the light versus the most benevolent best of all. So if something is for the most benevolent best of all, that typically means there's no harm. That's where we want to move to. We want that. When humanity starts making that shift collectively, this stuff will start to go away completely. But we're not there yet. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, does that mean that the intention for making the COVID had to be good, or does it just mean that there was a deeper divine reality at work?
It means that there was, based on the state of consciousness where humanity was,
This was
at
needed
the
or
time,
something, right?
it was ultimately, it was serving both the dark and the light, but it was permitted because it ultimately would serve the light, ultimately. But that doesn't make it the most benevolent best.
So that's
What we want to start asking for with all of our intentions and desires as a collective is what's for our most benevolent best, the most benevolent best of all. If we can start asking for that in all our endeavors, more of that will show up rather than this, what we're seeing.
Does that equal natural freedom, like our natural law and our inherent freedom based on natural law?
Well, inherent freedom and natural law is available to us now, but humans don't know it because humans are like, that story of the, elephant who's raised with the, so humans just don't know it. But the fact is that we already have sovereignty, freedom, and liberation within us. We have that, but we must energetically and vibrationally align with it. And that's where humans aren't. They're still believing in the concept of an external authority. They haven't fully reclaimed their sovereignty. They don't necessarily know how, or that that's even an option. All humans right now should be constantly affirming, I claim my sovereignty now. I command sovereignty now. And I own it. as a divine being on earth, as a being who lives here. That's one of the core things. So people don't know that. And the other, and then you can kind of do revocations too. Do you know about those?
No, explain.
Everybody should be doing this right now. A revocation is just when I revoke any consent I ever gave to the universe, either consciously or unconsciously, known to me or unknown to me, that XYZ could happen. I revoke it now. I command this to be so.
So that should be specific though, right?
Yeah, like XYZ is like, I revoke consent for war to happen on planet Earth.
Should it be on a personal? Is there a
where I have consented for that right now? I'm telling you, I permanently revoke any consent I ever gave, consciously or unconsciously, known or unknown to me, this lifetime or any other, including in between lifetimes. I revoke all consent, permissions, authorities to any others where I gave authority to that. It's against my free will for war to continue. So that kind of thing, because you see, we don't realize that there are natural laws, real laws of the universe that are paying attention to our thoughts, to our beliefs, to our belief system. These are identified as under quantum law. Quantum physics identifies them. Spiritual law knows them too.
Yeah.
I have a dream catcher for that kind of stuff.
A dream catcher?
Yeah.
Yeah, those are awesome. You like that?
Well, I have a bunch of them. I have one in all my vehicles and one in all my rooms, and
How's it working for you?
It's working great.
That's awesome. Good. Because you can program the dream catcher too.
Oh yeah, I know. Yeah, I'm an Indian. I know all about that kind of stuff.
You've got all that ancient knowledge from.
It's in there somewhere,
lineage.
I guess. Yeah.
It definitely is. It's in your DNA.
Well, the DMT might have brought it out.
I just know when I need to touch them, and
Listen, when do you do meditation?
Nah, I just smoke a lot of weed. I do like meditate in the bathtub sometimes, maybe, but.
Okay. Well, when you're smoking weed, if you want to take some extra breaths in there and ask that anything that's in your dormant DNA that is for your most benevolent best from your lineage, the gifts of your ancestors that will serve, support, and assist you in the most benevolent best ways possible, ask that it be awakened and activated and take some long and slow, deep breaths. Now, you might not notice anything. Maybe you'd be too stoned to realize, but that's how it starts. Yeah, because you have lots of gifts from your ancestors coded into your DNA. Do you understand that the whole COVID thing was the swiping up the nose was a massive DNA collection?
Yeah, those motherfuckers got me a bunch of times. But
sorry,
I would already give them my DNA anyway. I just gave them to them under a fake name, but they probably know what's up. I mean, if they want my DNA, they're gonna get it. I'm on a bunch of lists. And I complain about the government nonstop. Mm-hmm. And I'm a registered Indian. So they got that shit somewhere.
Well, they do. But the reason they want all the DNA, see, is that they know their gig is up. And because they don't have any compassion and they are not in their heart center and they don't know how to get there, because most of them have kind of sold their soul to the devil, so to speak. They need your DNA because they're not going to be able to continue to live without it.
Well, they can have it then. I mean, do I still get to live?
Well, you see, this is one of those areas where you want to revoke consent personally. Because when you talk about people who are DNA harvesting without your conscious consent, they're basically breaking the laws they're allowed to break. They're really not allowed to do that. But if they can convince you to give it to them for another reason, such as a COVID test, now they're bypassing a law, but they're able to find their way around it. But what that is when people don't understand what's at the root of what's going on, they don't see how all things are connected, and they say, I can't do anything about it. I have no power. There's nothing I can do. We become part of the problem of our society, of our reality. You can do something.
Damn straight.
Oh yeah, we've done lots.
I do what I want. Period.
All right. Well, that's all good.
Yeah, I mean it's great, but I do agree with. I understand what you're saying. Yeah, the testing is probably one of the few examples.
At least I always got to test myself.
That we've complied.
I mean, a lot of people don't understand that. Like, for example, 123andMe and Ancestry and Me, those are now all owned by the CIA.
We did the Ancestry and Me, but we use fake names.
Yeah.
You think they still got us?
Somebody who does jaw clenching. Which one of you?
Jaw clenching? Not me.
Yeah.
You know what you're picking up on. I fucking sneezed like 5 days ago, and I bit my tongue on both sides at the back when I sneezed, and it's really been bothering me all week. I just can't now stop because now my tongue's swollen from the bites, and now I can't stop biting the fucking thing. It's unreal.
I'm sorry.
This never happened before.
But wait, can I just ask you, neither one of you grind your jaw at nighttime?
No, I don't grind my teeth. My youngest daughter grinds her teeth a little bit. My ex-wife used to grind her teeth like a motherfucker. But no, I'm not a teeth grinder. I could see Graham grinding his teeth. He makes some weird noises in his sleep, this guy.
How do you know that he does that?
Well, we do events, so we end up sharing hotel rooms or cabins and stuff all the time. So
I did look at that on your website. I saw that. All right, so you do grind your teeth, Graham.
No, I don't think I do. Honestly. I don't think
I'm not picking this up out of nowhere.
Yeah. Well, I think you're picking it up because he's mumbling too because of his tongue and his jaw. Like, would you not be picking up that? No, it's actually.
Why are you so defensive?
I didn't get it so much in the tongue area. I got it in the jaw. But
yeah, I don't know. I mean, it could be. Would it be his daughter? Maybe, you know.
What?
It could
Keep
be.
my daughter out of this,
something in his lineage.
I don't know.
You guys are funny.
I don't think I do have a. I don't know.
Well, then, no. If you don't know, you probably don't. Maybe it is. Maybe I'm just picking it up from him, and I identified it slightly incorrectly, but I felt it. I always can tell when it's something. Maybe that is what it was. It was like a discomfort in the mouth.
That's my mouth is driving me fucking nuts this week. I can't.
So what do you think's underneath that? What do you think is underneath that?
Well, I sneezed and I bit my tongue. I remember the moment. I was like, I can't fucking believe I just bit my tongue twice at the same time.
You guys are really funny.
I think I was talking to someone on the phone or something. I don't know how it happened because it's never happened before. I've never bit my tongue in general.
Well, usually when we bite our tongue, it's usually because in the moment we either really want to say something and we don't say it, or it's important for us to say something that we don't say.
Darren, I think she's asking for like the deeper spiritual meaning.
Oh, well, I was alone.
You got to get it. I'm a healer. That's what, to me, everything in the physical is a byproduct of the non-physical.
Well, probably. I mean, I should probably say all sorts of shit. I mean,
were you about to lie, or were you about to cheat your way through, a COVID test or something at the time, or what?
No, you can't cheat.
You weren't about to lie. Were you about to tell the truth, or
don't try I run by my own morals, buddy. I don't. If it's okay
you guys are really fun.
If it's okay by my moral standards, then it's okay. Period. There's no ifs, ands, and fucking buts about it. That's it.
Well, maybe at that time you weren't running by your moral standards, and you're just doing something that you didn't agree with, and that's what caused you to sneeze and bite your tongue.
Well, I was eating a tea biscuit.
Do you remember the conversation? You were what?
I was eating a tea biscuit. I don't eat a lot of those. I don't know. I was by myself at the time. I was by myself in my truck, listening to Game of Thrones.
As a healer, I just always think to myself, like, everything ultimately that happens in the physical world is an effect.
Could you help me with it? Because I mean, it started bad on this side, and then now this side's better, and now it's kind of gone over to this side. And I'm just hoping that once this side heals up, I'll be through this.
Well, I can help you with it, but I can tell you it won't be like in the moment that it suddenly gets a miraculous healing. I don't know if you guys have worked with healers before. Have you ever worked with healers?
Oh, yeah, all the time. Yep.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because a lot of times, what the falsity is about in the physical world is like, this is part of the brainwashing, I think, about the whole healing arts, is this idea that somebody kind of like a wheelchair gets, someone in a wheelchair gets rolled up to a pulpit or like a, at a mass, and then some preacher or some, spiritual leader puts their hands on, and then suddenly the guy stands up out of the wheelchair and says, "Oh, I've been healed." Like, that's not how it works. That's just so not how it works. So people then discredit it, right? It gets discredited. So I can give you a healing, but it doesn't mean it will, like, in an instant be healed, because your laws of nature still command that your mouth is going to, take its time in natural order.
Maybe it says I've been talking too much. Maybe it's like, keep your mouth shut for a couple days.
Yeah. I mean, maybe it's that you're ready to, some part of you wants to not be talking.
It's time to retire.
Make a lot more sense to me. Actually, I'm hearing a bing, bing, bing in my head, because this is part of why you check out using, the pot. You like to check out. It's the way people check out, right? Isn't that what the DMT is too? In a way.
Oh, I don't know about that. I mean, I smoke weed. I've been smoking weed all 20 years. I don't know that I'm checked out. I'd think I'm more checked in than most people.
Mm.
I mean, like, okay. I don't have TV.
Well, you know yourself better than I do. I usually just think that when people are doing some form of drugs regularly, in their unconscious somewhere, there is a desire to kind of check out. But even just reading your field, like just reading your field, there's entities in your space. So when you're doing those drugs, you are opening up space for visitors from the non-physical. Like, you have a lot of visitors around you.
Are they good visitors?
They wouldn't be to me. I don't think so.
Troublemakers?
Siphoning your energy.
Those bastards. I knew it.
I love that you can take it, though. I love that you didn't get defensive or anything.
So you got to get in line to siphon my energy. I got people siphoning my energy all over the place. That's okay, though. There's enough to go around.
Well, that's true. An entity can only show up if you're already at that frequency bandwidth where others are siphoning. That's what happens.
Well, here's the thing. I figure there's siphoners and siphonees, and you're going to end up being one or the other. So I'd rather be a siphon. Would that make me a siphonee?
I'm not sure what the languaging would be on that one. But I will say, for me personally, I would rather be someone who has so much light that I uplift the whole of humanity. But I think that's who I am. So it feels pretty good to be that. Then every once in a while, you do get siphoners around you, but it doesn't happen nearly as often. Most of the time, you just transmute that really fast.
Maybe it's because I haven't been in the studio with him for a while, and he's down there by himself. Maybe I'd be dispersing some of those entities.
Maybe that's true.
I mean, and maybe you could try that on weed, and you'd be like, "Whoa, this is even better. I get it."
But you just validated a little. So you haven't been in the studio. So to some degree, he's like, "I'm talking too much. I don't want to do all the talking. I don't want to do it all myself all the time." So this would make sense why the jaw has got some kind of stiffness or tightness, and why there's like a biting of the tongue. Am I reaching? Is this so far reaching?
Yeah, because I do most of the talking. He does. He interrupts, though. I mean, maybe it's he's not supposed to interrupt as much.
I mostly crack jokes. If I didn't interrupt, I wouldn't say anything.
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing. You can just kind of joke. It's not really for me to decide what the truth is for you. I just am aware that there's some dynamic going on there. And if someone's really asking me, then I can, get to the truth of it for you. But most of the time, it's just up to you to decide, like, how is that relevant? Why is that relevant for you? Is it relevant at all? Does it help and serve you in your journey? Because through the experience of becoming more conscious about anything, that's how we get to resolve issues that are not working. So even with the healing, and this is true with animals too, the whole point of animals wanting to help humans, their agenda is to help humans awaken. So their agenda is to facilitate the awakening of human consciousness by helping humans see themselves through the mirror of, for example, their animal companions. Either that and or by using energy to either communicate and or heal. So they're like energy healers, and they absorb energy. And so this kind of an agenda, it's more like helping humans to see and perceive what humans have not been conscious of, so that we can awaken and transmute the experiences which we are not necessarily enjoying or which are not beneficial to us, and so that we can have more desirable experiences. Now, if your life is completely happy and fulfilled all the time, then, far be it from me to say, to become conscious of like what happened with your mouth and why you bit your tongue. It has nothing to do with me. You know what I mean? It's for you to decide if that's relevant. But this is the whole thing, like animals, for example, since we brought up that whole animal thing, they're really here to help humans awaken. So in a sense, the animals who live with us, they're like empath sponges, major sponges of energy around them, of their environment, and they're psychic sponges of information. So they will mirror to their human what's going on in their environment in an effort to show the human, here's what's going on.
Do they take on the diseases of humans sometimes? I have a friend that had a really rare disease, and the cat ended up with the same thing.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
So
because the animals attempt to absorb it, both to heal the human, but also to show the human as a way of communicating, hey, this is the imbalance in your life.
So we've got a few cats, and recently, but when we were supposed to do this show together a few months ago, we went through a bit of a traumatic experience with the little cat. My girlfriend shared him with this cat with another guy who my girlfriend had the cat for like half the time, and the guy had him for half the time, and my girlfriend found him. Knew that he had died in his room. She hadn't heard from him in the texting.
The cat or the friend?
The friend.
Oh.
And he had the cat at the time.
Mm-hmm.
She ended up calling the cops and saying, hey, I can't get a hold of this guy. I think there's something wrong. They broke through the basement door and stuff and found him dead on the bed. And she got the cat after that. I think she had the cat at the time. But they split the cat almost 50-50. Mm-hmm. So then the cat came over to live with me and my girlfriend full time. And it got, we noticed it wasn't eating properly. It was having a hard time adjusting with the other cats. But I ended up when I was alone with the cat and she was back in her hometown for a few weeks, I ended up taking the cat to the vet because it wasn't eating and it was, and the vet, it's just a weird experience with the vet. But anyways, it ends up being like liver problems and kidney problems, and it wasn't eating properly. And I guess these cats they end up with hunger. I can't find my words right now. They end up having diet problems, like within 3 days of not eating or something, they have issues with their, I can't think of what the technicality is. But anyways, the vet didn't know. The vet only could tell what was wrong with it, but not why or anything like that. So we had him on a bunch of meds. It was a terrible experience as far as like trying to save this cat. And we ended up putting it down after 3 weeks or a month of like spoon feeding it meds through its mouth. So like sad. We couldn't, But I guess I'm just telling you the story because I felt like there was something with this guy dying and with the cat, and like, did the cat need to just be with him in the afterlife? Does that ever happen? Is there a deeper thing, do you think, about the whole situation? Like,
yeah, well, let me say what I'm hearing. There's a number of things. Number one, it's what I'm hearing just telepathically, psychically, not from the cat directly, because I haven't made a connection with the cat directly, but just psychically, but also just energetically as a healer. So the first part is psychically. What I'm hearing is that the cat's mission and purpose was to be with that human in the physical world. When that human transitioned, the cat had an opportunity to choose. I'm complete with this mission. Do I want to stay on, or do I want to transition? And that window of time when he was with you was while he was deciding. So he made the choice to transition. Animals are a lot less attached to their bodies than we are. And their transition period is a lot more easy and graceful typically than it is than humans. They just don't have as much egoic construct as we do, and they don't have as much karmic crap and energetic debris. And so and anything that they took on from their human while they live, they typically drop that when they transition to, because it's not theirs anyway. They don't need to hold on to it. So that's the first thing that's lighting up. The second thing is that when the person who the cat was with, who was transitioning, those issues were absorbed to a large degree by the cat. So, when we're looking at kidneys, for example, kidneys typically they process the emotion of fear. And so this person was probably in a lot of fear in his life.
Always, yeah.
Right. And then the liver processes anger, grudge, resentment. So a lot of times.
Wow.
Yeah. So the person probably had a lot of anger and resentment.
Wow.
What I know, I assume that's a yes, he did.
Is it my internet, Darren, or Lori's? Do you know? Or
I don't.
Sure.
I can't tell.
Can you hear something? Can you hear?
It did sort of just break apart a bit, but it's better now, I think.
So yeah. No, I'm just. I think I didn't know him very well, but from what I know of the situation, yeah, you're bang on with that. Like,
yeah.
Then maybe the cat.
So, and see, this is the thing, because the reason the doctors can't usually do anything or identify is that especially Western doctors, they're not trained in any of this. It's all Band-Aid stuff. And I know that's not new information to people these days. It's like everybody's waking up to the realization that Western medicine is just Band-Aid solutions. Yeah, it's just a disaster, because that's part of why it's collapsing. But from a healer perspective, for me as a healer, it would be quite easy. Very easy. I mean, just right there to identify what's going on. And then for someone like me to be able to unify in frequency with divine source, which is a very divine, pure love, neutral, without any judgment, just primordial, undiluted from human interpretation of what love is. And from that frequency, everything can be healed very quickly. And then really basically what it is then for the human and for the cat, they just need to be, in a sense, downloaded with these new frequencies and to come into vibrational harmony with them. And then in that process, receive any gifts of learning, lessons, awarenesses, gifts of consciousness that they're meant to receive, and do any kind of forgiveness that they're meant to, well, I'm talking about forgiveness because in this case, we're talking about the liver, like the solution to anger and grudge is forgiveness. But typically there's some kind of gifts that we're meant to receive because of our diseases. So those gifts are gifts of consciousness and energy, frequency, vibration. And once the person and the animal receive that, then what happens is, in a sense, the karma is like, okay, this lesson is learned. This is done. This is complete. But it needs to be recognized on multiple levels and frequencies, dimensions, and bandwidths. And sometimes in other lifetimes, which, in this reality, we're taught that's woo-woo. But it's not woo-woo. It's something that was filtered from our consciousness when we were in that frequency fence. You see? That's why. And part of the whole, agenda is to, infiltrate the mass media with this judgment that it's woo-woo, wicked, or something to be afraid of. And so people just don't believe in it. They put that into the media and the movies, and they make it, they make everybody sound crazy who's into this stuff. But in reality, I just can't even tell you just the miracle kinds of healings that happen.
Yeah.
And we use the word miracle, but they're really not miracles. They are what's the real normal.
Yeah, it's a natural law that just hasn't been identified scientifically yet,
Right.
Or it has, but it's been ignored.
Right. Well, I mean, this is another thing. Like I know this stuff because my consciousness is so in other dimensional realities so much of the time, but we have all the solutions to all the diseases. They've been given to us so many times. We have all the solutions to all the world problems in our own DNA. And, the world governments were given all kinds of extraterrestrial technology so many times to heal us of all our diseases, fix everything. It was just, they weren't interested in that.
So I mean, that brings up a lot of other questions, but I want to stick to the pet thing for a sec. So I mean, because my experience with the vet was terrible as far as like trying to just navigate what to do and what the chances were of saving it and all the stuff that they didn't know, and the stuff that they did know was just give you like 10 different types of meds throughout the day. I mean, it was a disaster, and it reminded me a lot of our Western medical system for humans. I mean, it was just almost an exaggerated aspect of it.
See, even an example like that. Now, when you become conscious of how the universe works and how everything is multidimensional reality presenting itself to you, in the time when that happened, you and your girlfriend were probably in an energetic bandwidth of your anxiety, worry, something in there, so that you're going to get and attract to you an experience that's resonant with that kind of energy. Unfortunately, that's how it works. So if you're a really conscious person,
but we try.
Well, let me just take the next step. If you're a person who, even if you weren't in that energy, if you decided in the purity of your core of your vehicle to say, all right, we're intending for the most benevolent best. We're desiring and intending that the most benevolent best vet is presented to us with speed, divine accuracy, so that the right vet comes who will really, truly provide the most benevolent best result for all, ideally with harm to none, but we don't always know, because if the cat's choice is to cross, the cat's making that choice, it's going to happen. So we can only say ideally with harm to none, because our perspective is that the crossing is harmful. But so if you put that intention out there and it's said in such a pure way, and there's a release like a trust and let it be, that is the reality you become vibrationally compatible with, you see, because reality from a quantum physics perspective and from a spiritual perspective is just moment, reality. So what you're basically doing in a sense is walking into time, space, reality, moments based on choice. And so if you were, prior to bringing the cat, even in a space of, you said you weren't frazzled or upset, but if you were still like, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? Or this is just frustrating, or this is just annoying, or anything, whatever was presented to you was a reflection somehow of where you were going. You understand? Is this making sense?
Oh yeah. I mean, I definitely was frustrated with the vet and that experience, but we always sort of had tried to maintain like a high vibration of hope or healing or whatever. Like we, were aware enough to try and do that. But yeah, I see what you're saying. So what about advice for people that have sick pets then? Like how do you navigate the difference between, or not the difference between it, but the choice between going to a vet or letting it go, or like, is there any advice around like how to let pets go? Maybe, do you put them down? Do you let them go on their own? Like, I mean, how do we navigate that sort of situation?
Yeah. I mean, I would say that's like the hardest situation like ever. Deciding, the way I've handled that in the past is that I've try my best to ask the animal. One thing, like, this is a complicated question. So first, let me just say, I live with, my animals always saying, I say to them, and I say to the universe, I want this animal, and choose for this animal to be with me as long as they possibly can, and also as healthy as they possibly can be for as long as they can, and also as happy. I want us to have the highest quality life we can possibly have together. And I continually affirm, like, to my animal how much I love them and they matter to me, and they're the most important person. I call my dog here most important person in my life, and we belong together, so that the animal is receiving that awareness, so they don't get lost and they feel valued and loved. Now, I'm not saying people don't love their animal. What I'm saying is that is just one little thing that we do that reaffirms that the animal has worth and value in the human's life, which helps them to make choices in their own journey for continuing to stay. That's a basic. And it also, when you tell your animal we belong together, they're much like so much less likely to get lost, because they understand we belong together. Most times when animal gets lost, it's because their human is either learning a lesson about responsibility or something similar, or else, well, maybe the animal wants a transition and the human won't let them, they know, or can't handle it. But oftentimes it's because the human is like stressed out and worried and thinks, how am I going to handle this? How am I going to be able to handle, I got too much on my plate. And the animal's like, well, let me alleviate your burden. So, these are the things when we get conscious of this. But when you speak directly to the question of, how do we help them transition or know when? Number one, I really believe in working with an animal communicator. I really believe in working or learning how to do it yourself. I really believe in, understanding energy, because when an animal really is ready to transition, if the human gives them permission, they will transition. When the human says, if you're really ready to go, if it's really your choice, then I will let you go. Because the animals typically will do what the human wants them to do. If the human says, I want you here, please don't leave me. Please don't leave. They'll stay. They might be in a lot of pain. They might be suffering, but they'll do their best to stay as long as they can. So, the middle ground between there is when it's the right time for my animal to transition, help me, whoever the human is, help me to have the strength and the clarity to navigate this, to know what's the right action and for this animal's most benevolent best. That's the way you navigate that. Do you know what I mean? You use your consciousness to tell the universe. And the best thing really is to say it way in advance. So like, I know I just got a new puppy because my last dog transitioned. She transitioned 2 years ago, and a year ago I got a new dog, right? So my puppy is a year now, but I'm already like, I want her to be here for as long as she possibly can, as strong as she possibly can, as healthy as she can possibly be, as happy. We belong together. I'm already setting the stage for us to have that kind of a life. But I also know that whenever the time comes, I'm also saying I want it to be as easy and graceful for her. I want it to be in a divine timing way that's good and right for her when she's ready, with the least amount of pain and suffering for her possible, but also which affords me the ability to let her go with grace. It's like there's nothing to be afraid of when you put it into the field of consciousness. You line up with that time-space reality. Does that make sense?
Yeah. But what about dealing with the vets and like those?
Yeah.
All those.
So
all
when
those
you know you're going to have to go to a vet, first of all, very important, I think, to have holistic vets. I'm not a fan at all of, and to understand, like with my last dog that transitioned, I used a lot of acupuncture with her. We used a lot of homeopathic remedies. I mean, her prognosis for death was a year before she transitioned. So through the healing and everything, she had an extra year. But you should know a vet, choose your vet way before you really need the vet, and have a vet that you love. But more importantly, when choosing the vet, again, tell the universe, like, I intend to find a vet who is qualified, does an outstanding job, is really working through his heart center, his or her, is the most benevolent best we can find. Like, what's for the most benevolent best of my companion? You put in your qualifications, and then you let the universe reveal that to you. And this is a new way of operating. If we go back to the beginning of our conversation, we're changing from the inside. This is one example. Changing from the inside is where we recognize that the power to create our reality comes from within, from the way that we ask and work with the external, so-called external reality, by working with the divine intelligence, whether we identify it as the quantum field or our own divine intelligence of our awareness, however we identify it. This is part of the change. We start working from within to change the external and to lovingly guide and direct the external, while also allowing it to lovingly guide, support, and lead us. as well, working in partnership and collaboration as co-creating our reality. So that's what we do with the vet. And then you have to know your stipulations of, you want someone who's homeopathic or holistic, or, you want someone who knows certain things. And, like I love vets who know how to do muscle testing. I love vets who are really open to this, who work with animal communicators, et cetera, because in my mind, if they don't, I'm not really that interested in working with them.
Yeah, that makes
they just
sense.
buy into that.
That makes sense. Totally.
Yeah, I mean, if they're
it seems like it's either that or that's the complete Western med system,
Yeah. And I will say that my last dog, she never needed a vet her entire life until the last, basically, year of her life was the only time. And that was basically when she got ill. She got a diagnosis. I did all kinds of healing. She was healed again. And it wasn't until the last 3 days of her life that we went back to the vet, and she was ready.
Nice. Yeah, that makes sense. Totally.
Yeah.
Do you sort of switch gears a little bit here? Do you have experiences in the astral realm or OBEs at all or anything like that when you talk about your? Yeah. I have some listeners were emailing me and asking me to talk about that again, people's experiences in those realms.
Yeah. So OBEs in the astral realm is what I call the fourth dimension. I call that the fourth dimensional reality because it's the non-physical reality. And it incorporates consciousness, right? It's where we become conscious of things that are non-physical, right?
Okay.
So, yeah, you can do OBE and traveling. It's not my favorite thing because I don't actually feel like playing that much in fourth dimensional reality. But I will say when I was very early in my journey of awakening, not that I'm still, it's infinite. So I'm still a newbie in a way, in that way. But I was living in Maui at the time. I was going through a divorce, and because he wasn't into any of this stuff, and he definitely wasn't into my awakening journey and me telling him about any of this stuff. But I wanted to kind of spy on him. I was psychically spying, and I hadn't learned ethics yet, right? I just hadn't learned the spiritual ethics. This was one of my major teachers of it. So I start astral traveling through the planes to the house, the planes of existence, to the house where we lived together in Los Angeles. But I was in Maui. I just wanted to see, what is he doing? What's going on? Where's he at? And I get into the house and I see, on the table, this picture of him with a woman who had red hair. Now, at the time, she was a different woman. She wasn't me. But at the time, I really didn't know who she was or anything. And all I know was I was basically psychically spying. Again, I would never advise this, but this is how I learned this lesson about spiritual etiquette. Well, this particular lesson about spiritual etiquette. And this woman from the picture suddenly came at me with a fist and punched me in the face. And I physically felt it.
Wow.
So my whole forehead, I was punched in the face, right in the third eye area. And I really did stop psychic traveling for a little while because of that. It was traumatic. And I did learn, you can't be spying on people. You can't do that kind of stuff. But I was in a very new state. So you can visit, you can traverse, but you got to know you can run into a lot of problems in that realm, right? You need to know how to clean your field up beforehand and afterhand. You need to know how to make sure you don't take on any energetic debris with you when you come back full in physical form. But it's an interesting place to traverse. Just now I'm at a point where for me, I'd way rather go past that. Why would you want to hang out there? There's so much better stuff. All that is just debris. It's Grand Central Station with smelly garbage everywhere. And I don't know. Wouldn't you want to go?
Where does you transition to the light, or what's after that?
No, you can go beyond that. So in the same kind of way, but rather than leaving the body to traverse space, right? That's fourth dimensional astral realm. That's astral travel. Rather than leaving the body to traverse space, way better, in my opinion. Different. is going within the body to locate source. The source of all that is within us. And you find that through your heart center.
Atma?
So when you learn, what's that?
Atma.
Yes, yes. Well, that's one way to describe it. So when you get into that space where you can find the core of your being, the depth of who you truly are, you unlock your own. I mean, it's your own. What is the word? It's your own holy grail. It's your own personal holy grail. It's the gift to the infinite. And then you can start connecting with realms beyond realms. You can meet, you can meet angels and archangels. You can go way past that. You can meet ascended masters. You can go way past that. You can reach star beings, all kinds of these benevolent extraterrestrials. You can go way beyond that. I mean, you can connect with the laws of the universe. You can have dialogue with them if they're willing. They don't really care that much. They're just like, we're just here to govern. But they will dialogue with you once they start realizing there's a purpose for you being there. I mean, you get infinite consciousness through your own core pillar. It's infinitely available to us. But if we're so busy, traveling the external, it's a fun place to explore, but not necessarily, in my opinion, the best. But that's just my opinion, right?
Have you asked the laws of the universe anything? Or?
Oh my God, are you kidding? Yes, all the time. They have been some of my greatest teachers. And in the earliest stages, when I would talk to them, they'd be like, we're not interested in you. We're not interested in you. We're just here to govern. And I would just keep going. I would just keep going to them, teach me, why are you? I mean, I got one of the best lessons from the law of synchronicity. It was so fascinating. This was just recently. I was living in Sedona at the time, and I was asking the universal law of synchronicity, show me how you're synchronizing things in my life. Oh my God, it was so cool. I got the most elaborate lesson about this, like my dog's name and her name translated to this. What it means is I'm going to matchmaker. Her name, Emma, a matchmaker, translates to the name Truth. I ended up meeting this person in Sedona that I was meant to do healing from a past life. His name is Truth. I did all this healing. It was so profound over the weekend. And I mean, it's just a long story, because then the way we met, all of the synchronicities of all of the things that had to come into perfect timing in order for us to meet. And it was such a divine appointment. It was so significant and so relevant. You just don't understand. These laws are so fascinating once you start connecting with them and everything they have to teach us. Oh my God, it's awesome. And what I love about the laws is that they don't dance around your ego. They have no interest in human, they don't care if they insult you. It's not like they're just there to uphold the law. So law of aerodynamics. I taught a class on universal laws. It's on my website. It's in my sacred membership. And I taught this class, and I never knew about the law of aerodynamics. I just never knew about it. And until years later, and I'm like, why didn't you tell me? I taught this whole class. And it was like, well, why should I be there? Why should I teach you? What's it to me? Well, I'm teaching a class about the laws. Don't you want me to get it right? No, we're just here to govern. We don't really care.
So does that class teach you how to know when you can ask these questions to the laws, or?
Well, anyone can ask the questions of the laws. It's just, you have to, in order to really interact with the laws exist on a 6-dimensional frequency, which again, I label it 6 because the way it was all taught to me through my linear mind was 6, but it's just vibrational bandwidth. Yeah. So they exist at a vibrational bandwidth that's also compatible with the Akashic records. Are you familiar with the Akashic records?
Yep.
Yeah. So just storing, it's a frequency bandwidth of information. And that's where those laws exist. Now, in order for me to interact with them, I had to become vibrationally compatible with that frequency bandwidth. And I had to be able to be there in pure divine neutrality. So once you learn how to do that, which is not that hard, but it does take time. It's not a pill. It's not something you read in a book, right? But that's the space where you can start interacting with them. But anybody can, just not most people can get to that bandwidth.
Yeah.
Not yet anyway, but it won't be long before we're all there.
How do people get? Go ahead.
I was just going to say it's hard to find divine neutrality when we're in a polarizing environment right now.
That's right. It is. You know how you find it? You really do. I already said it. Through your core pillar, your heart center.
Yeah.
And divine neutrality, everybody always gets confused about that. Divine neutrality does not mean you don't care. Your capacity to care actually increases. It increases when you get into divine neutrality, because now you're no longer polarized. You're in that sacred core of love, where you understand and can see the big picture. You can perceive more perspectives. And now from that divine neutrality, you can choose. So for example, I'm not neutral. I'm not caring about the COVID experience. I'm not caring about the war. I care so deeply, but I can also, from my neutral, I can choose the energy. For example, with the war, I can choose the energy of harmony,
Peace
and
and
I
love
can
instead of
yeah. But harmony is what's needed there, because there's disharmony, right? We've had peace. I mean, peace is awesome too. Love is always awesome, but to bring in the energy of harmony. And to bring harmony to that region, that's what we can do when we get into neutral, because now we can work with energy from a space of non-interference. We're not in the way. And we can actually use that energy from the non-physical, from the higher realms, and direct it and even send it to the areas of the earth where it's needed. That's just one example. But in order to do that, again, we have to get into our divine neutral. And the other piece about being in divine neutral in your own personal life, I mean, how many times have we been in situations where like two people are fighting or arguing or disagreeing, or there's some kind of disagreement, and you're like either stuck in the middle or you get polarized? Like, once you have the ability to like just drop into your heart, you don't have to get caught up in that stuff. You don't get involved in the human games and the human dramas of right and wrong. You know, do you know how many times people will be like attached to their belief systems or their perspectives, where I'm just like, in my sense, I'm like, I have no interest in that game.
Yeah, no, that's where discernment truly comes from.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You start being able to see and perceive things from so much wider perspective.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that. Yeah. So how can people get a hold of you, and your, maybe just mention your website and your training and all that?
Yeah, well, my website is my name, Lori Spagna, LORISPAGNA. And yeah, they can get some free gifts there. If they want to learn how to communicate with animals, they can go to lorispagna.com/free gifts/animals. And they'll get some awesome classes on learning about animals, animal telepathy, energy, and how we can help animals on a global scale. And if they want to learn about activating the DNA, they can get some great free gifts there about how to activate the dormant DNA. That's got all of our greatest potentials, right? And so they go to lorispagna.com/free gifts/DNA. And then the other thing I would just love to say is on the YouTube channel, my YouTube channel, which is just my name, Lori Spagna, there's DNA activations on there for codes of immunity and imperviousness. So we have codes in our DNA that make us 100% immune and impervious to any and all viruses, any and all nanotechnology, any and all EMF, chemtrails, like anything and everything, shedding that's negative and or harmful in the external world. We are 100% immune and impervious, but we have to activate those codes because those aren't in the first two strands of DNA. They're dormant. Once we activate them, if only people knew. So there's a free activation on my YouTube channel. There's lots of channeling, the channeling of the COVID virus. I mentioned that's going up this week. There's tons of channeling from like the laws of the universe and different benevolence. So yeah.
Right on. This has been fun. Darren, do you have any questions at the end? Or?
No, thanks for coming on the show. I was just going to get the website, but you already did.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, this has been good. It's been fun.
I hope so. Well, thank you so much for having me, you guys. It was really fun. I really appreciate your time and energy and your sharing.
Thanks. I'll put all the links to that stuff in the show notes.
All right. Awesome. You guys have a great night.
Okay. Thanks, Lori.
Ciao.
See ya.
Ciao.
Oops. Didn't work. Try this again. Oh, I see. I can't read. That's the wrong one. And that was our chat with Lori Spanga. What'd you think, buddy?
I liked it.
That was fun.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, I don't know. I feel like maybe it's just because we've done a few of these episodes and now it's sort of sinking in a little bit, but the way she describes the resonance and the frequencies, it seems to make more sense to me now, you know?
Well, we'll have to get you to explain it one day.
Yeah. No, I like it. Yeah.
Big thanks, Lori, for coming on the show. Big thanks to you guys for listening. Head over to the website, grab some support if you like what you're hearing. Head over to the chats, grimerica.ca/chats. Join the chats. Head over to the Adult Brain site if you want to check out any of those audiobooks or any of that fun stuff. And then there's a whole other podcast, Grimerica Outlawed. If you guys want to check that out, over at grimericaoutlawed.ca. We got that too. We got a lot going on. Check it all out. We love you guys. Thanks for listening, and we will see you next week.
Teach me all your secrets to get a good handle on a better way to live. How does one get out of bed every day in the throes of the apocalypse? Should I bury my head in the sand or sabotage their evil plan? I feel really trapped, an ant burned by a magnifying glass. It's all a little bit too convenient, all the evidence went up in flames. Phonies, fraudsters, scammers belong in the slammer, my friend, best give up their names. Should I call on militiamen or pass out a petition pen? I feel really trapped, an ant burned by a magnifying glass. I don't know what y'all been told, but I got a soul made out of gold. Sound off, 1, 2, sound off, 3, 4, cadence count, 1, 2, a big ball. Some time ago a crazy dream came to me. I dreamt I was walking into World War III. As prophetic as humidity, as aching bones, as frantic animals. Sophia wrote it down, built an ark, now she floats it down a river dark. As prophetic as deja vu, as wormwood, as falling stars above. Sophia wrote it down, built an ark, now she floats it down a river dark. I can't even hear my own thoughts for the life of me over the din of a bruised and broken culture. The media spins and splatters and spins and clatters, and I cringe because it's psychological warfare. Don't you feel yourself getting really mad? How did we let it get this bad? Don't you feel really trapped, like a brain in a vat? Trying really hard to close Pandora's box, but sirens are singing me off a cliff. I'm looking to hitchhike to Shangri-La over yonder. Sophia, would you give me a lift? Hopped out of the Hegelian rebellion. Say goodbye to all you Machiavellians. Let evil destroy itself. I'm bound for Shangri-La. Shangri-La. I'll let you be in my dream if I could be in yours. I'll let you be in my dream if I could be in yours. As prophetic as morning doves, as groundhogs, as fallen stars above. Sophia wrote it down, built an ark, now we're floating it down a river dark. As prophetic as white wolves, as butterflies, as rainbows. Sophia sings it now. We built a plane, now we're taking flight above a river bright. la 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 Shangri-La.